Have you ever wondered what happens after we die? It's one of humanity's oldest and most profound questions. For centuries, religions, philosophies, and now science have tried to peer behind the curtain. Today, we're going to explore a fascinating concept from the Qur'an known as Barzakh and discover some incredible parallels in the world of modern science. This isn't about proving one with the other, but about seeing how different ways of understanding our universe can sometimes echo each other in surprising ways. So what exactly is Barzakh? In Arabic, the word literally means a barrier or partition. In the Quran, it's described as an intermediate state, a realm the soul enters after death, but before the final day of judgment. It's a place of transition, a waiting period. The Quran mentions it in Surah Al-Mu'minun, where it says, "And behind them is a barrier until the day they are resurrected." This suggests it's not a final destination, but a phase, a dimension between our physical world and the ultimate spiritual reality. Think of it like this: your life in this world is one chapter. The day of judgment and what comes after is the final chapter. Barzakh is the chapter in between. It's a state where the soul is conscious, aware, and experiences a foretaste of its ultimate destiny. For the righteous, it's described as a peaceful, pleasant wait, like a garden. For the wrongdoers, it's a period of distress and anxiety, a preview of the consequences of their actions. It's a deeply personal experience, unique to each soul. Now you might be thinking, that's a spiritual belief. Where does science come in? And that's where things get really interesting. Let's start with the very idea of a barrier between two worlds. One of the most mind-bending concepts in modern physics is the idea of extra dimensions. For a long time, we thought we lived in a three-dimensional world: length, width, and height, plus the fourth dimension of time. But theories like string theory and M theory propose that our universe might actually have many more dimensions, perhaps 10 or 11 or even more. These extra dimensions are thought to be curled up or compactified at a scale so tiny we can't perceive them with our current technology. Imagine a tightrope walker. From far away, the rope looks like a one-dimensional line. But for an ant walking on that same rope, it has a second dimension, the circumference it can walk around. In a similar way, these extra dimensions could be all around us, unseen. Our three-dimensional universe could be like a sheet of paper, a brain, as physicists call it, floating in a higher dimensional space called the bulk. This creates a fascinating parallel. Could our physical world and a realm like Barzakh be two different brains or dimensions, existing side by side, separated by a barrier we cannot cross? It's a speculative idea, of course, but the concept of hidden realities existing parallel to our own is no longer just the stuff of science fiction. It's a serious area of theoretical physics. The barrier of Barzakh could be seen as a metaphorical description of the boundary between these dimensional realities. Let's take this a step further and talk about time. In the state of Barzakh, the experience of time is said to be completely different from our own. The Quran often speaks about how on the Day of Judgment, people will feel as if they only stayed in the world for a day or part of a day. This suggests a distortion or relativity of time. And what does science say about time? Albert Einstein's theory of relativity showed us that time is not constant, it's relative. Time can slow down or speed up depending on your velocity or the strength of the gravitational field you are in. This is called time dilation. For an astronaut traveling near the speed of light, time passes much slower than for someone on Earth. We've proven this with atomic clocks on GPS satellites. They run slightly faster than clocks on the ground and have to be constantly adjusted. So if time can be stretched and compressed in our own universe, is it so far-fetched to imagine a state of existence, a different dimension, where the perception of time is completely altered? The thousands of years that might pass on Earth could feel like a mere moment in the realm of Barzakh. The subjective experience of time described in Scripture finds a powerful echo in the objective reality described by physics. Now let's talk about consciousness. A key element of Barzakh is that the soul remains conscious and aware. The physical body has decayed, but the essence of the person, their consciousness, persists. This is one of the biggest mysteries for science. What is consciousness? Where does it come from? The conventional view is that consciousness is an emergent property of the brain, a product of complex neural activity. When the brain dies, consciousness ceases to exist. But this is far from a settled fact. Many neuroscientists and philosophers, like Dr. Christoph Koch, who spent his career studying the neural basis of consciousness, admit we are nowhere near a full explanation. There are alternative theories. Some propose that consciousness might be more fundamental, not just a product of the brain. Theories like Orc-Or, proposed by Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hemmeroff, suggest consciousness originates from quantum processes inside our brain cells. They argue that this quantum information isn't destroyed upon death, but can be released into the universe. While highly speculative, this idea opens a door. Could the information that constitutes our self, our consciousness, be transferred from our physical brain to another state or dimension upon death? Could Barzakh be the realm where this quantum consciousness resides, no longer tied to a physical body but still retaining its identity and awareness? This aligns remarkably with the description of a soul that is aware, that can feel joy or sorrow, while its earthly vessel is no longer functional. Think about near-death experiences, or NDEs. People from all cultures and backgrounds who have been clinically dead and then resuscitated report similar experiences. A feeling of leaving the body, traveling through a tunnel, seeing a light, and having a life review. While science often explains these as hallucinations from a dying brain, the consistency of these accounts is striking. Could these be glimpses, however fleeting and filtered through our human brain, of the initial transition into that intermediate state? It's a compelling question to ponder. So we have the idea of parallel dimensions as a potential place for Barzakh. We have time dilation as a way to understand its altered sense of time. And we have quantum theories of consciousness that allow for the possibility of awareness continuing after the brain dies. Again, it's crucial to state that we are not using science to prove the Qur'an. Faith and science are different paths to knowledge. Faith is based on revelation and belief in the unseen. Science is based on empirical evidence and testable hypotheses. But it is absolutely fascinating when these two distinct paths seem to point in a similar direction. When the metaphors of ancient scripture resonate with the language of modern cosmology and quantum physics. The concept of Barzakh provides a framework for what happens after death that is both comforting and cautionary. It tells us that our actions in this life have echoes in the next, and that our journey doesn't just end abruptly. The scientific parallels we've explored, from extra dimensions to the nature of consciousness, don't validate this belief in a lab, but they do something else. They expand our minds. They show us that the universe is far stranger, more complex, and more mysterious than we could ever have imagined. They remind us that what we perceive with our five senses might just be a tiny sliver of a much grander reality. The Qur'an encourages us to travel through the earth and observe how He began creation. It's a call to seek knowledge, to reflect on the signs in the universe. Whether you are looking through a telescope at distant galaxies, a microscope at the quantum world, or reflecting on the verses of Scripture, you are engaging in an act of discovery. The idea of Barzakh, a barrier between worlds, is no longer just a theological concept. In a way, physics has given us its own version, a barrier of perception, a dimensional veil that we are just beginning to contemplate. As our knowledge grows, perhaps we'll find that the ancient truths and modern discoveries are not so far apart after all, but are simply different descriptions of the same magnificent, mysterious reality. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the seen and the unseen. If you found this topic as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content that bridges science and spirituality, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What other parallels have you noticed? Until next time, keep asking the big questions.